But in Canada, most news media take government money from the federal government, from Justin Trudeau. I believe that that's coloring their coverage, even of you. Mm-hmm. I believe it makes them a little bit more obedient to the person who pays them. Mm-hmm. Is that just me talking as a competitor, or to you as a political challenger to the establishment in Ottawa? Do you sense that too?
I think there's been a couple of things. I noticed this with the CRTC and the fact that that radio and television do have really life or death decision of their broadcast licenses being held by the CRTC. And if you get too many complaints, there's always this worry, are we going to be able to defend our licenses? And I think what the net result of that is that you end up with journalists less willing to take risks, because a lot of stories are very controversial. And if something is likely to elicit a strong reaction, I fear that the media will keep on pulling its punches. And so what's happening is that you're beginning to see alternative media go where the mainstream media is afraid to go. But I think in the end, that whole universe of opinion is vitally necessary to make sure that we have robust public decision making. Because if you only have one view represented and a politician is looking to be able to get good advice about the decisions that they need to make, you're just not going to get good decisions if everybody is saying the same thing. And so I welcome the many, many voices that we see now.
One more question about media. It looks like the federal government is set to pass a series of bills, C11, C18, and others to come, that would regulate these independent media, could even regulate independent individuals on Facebook or Twitter. And one of the things that the federal Liberals are talking about is changing the algorithm so that government-approved sources would be boosted by Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube. Is that something that you've given any consideration to? I know it's in federal jurisdiction to a large degree, but that strikes me as meddling with our constitutional rights.
Well, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of the press should be foundational to our country, foundational to our charter. During the campaign, I talked about whether we might be able to invite and entice Elon Musk to come up here with his Starlink, and if that becomes one of the ways in which you can continue to have an opportunity to broadcast freely into our province. I don't know if we can do that. I mean, part of the issue is that when you've got all of the various carriers that are regulated by the federal government, then they seem to hold all the cards. So I'd be interested in seeing if there's some way that we would be able to assist those who want to continue to have that free speech platform. For instance, I know that there's a broadcaster who broadcasts into the Ontario market from Florida. So he already saw that this is the direction things were going. And so he's now moved outside of Canada so that he's able to broadcast freely into Canada, which who would have ever thought that would be the thing that we'd be talking about years ago? I think the federal government has done a massive overreach here. And the question will be how much are we able to provide an environment that will allow for that kind of freedom? Part of the issue around Facebook and Twitter is it sounds like they want to pull out because of how they're being regulated by the federal government. And the alternative media I've spoken with have said that they look at those platforms as a way of getting their message out more broadly. They're quite happy with the status quo. The question is, can we do much about that? I don't know the answer to that yet.
That's an excerpt from my show every night. It's called The Ezra Levant Show. That's me, Ezra Levant. You can see the whole thing behind our paywall. Well, there's a lot of goodies behind there. I do a show every weeknight. My friends Sheila Gunn-Reid and David Menzies and Nat and Kat have their shows too. You get a ton of content for just $8 a month. There's so much in there you won't find anywhere else. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.